Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the time may be, hello. This is the very first attempt that we are making to flip a faculty meeting. It is a happy Thanksgiving present to you. I know that we moved the faculty meeting from our usual Tuesday, which is the day before we leave for the break, which I did not want to stay after school, to Monday. But then really when we thought about it, we can't pay you any more money. We basically are constrained within our master schedule. The only thing we can do, and based on the survey results, is cut down on the meeting times and give you the opportunity to be more flexible with this faculty meeting. Now, the caveat is, I'm looking at myself on the screen here and I'm getting a little self-conscious. The caveat is, if you guys have ever stood in front of a camera and recorded yourself, you can relate to what I'm feeling right now. The caveat is, how do I take attendance and make sure that you guys watch the video? So the first thing I thought of, well, they've got to answer a question and see what kind of necktie I'm wearing. Well, shucks, you just watched the first 30 seconds of the video and realize I'm not wearing a necktie. So here's the deal. You're going to have to answer a question and we'll figure it out. We're the best tech school in America. And you're going to have to tell me how many times I use the word automatopoeia. How many times do I use the word automatopoeia? So keep track of how many times I use the word. I'm not going to say it, so you have to keep counting after 2. It's at least 2. You got to keep counting after 2. So we are doing this flip faculty meeting, video recording, to give you your afternoon back. A lot of you guys have different things going on. It's the week before Thanksgiving break. Going over the agenda that we have for our faculty meeting, just a few things real quick. Of course, like we always do, we're going to go over good news. We're going to do a lifesaver. Next slide, please. We're gonna have our discipline update due to PBIS, like weather guy. Talk a little bit about walkthroughs, evaluations, PGPs, SPDM subcommittee. Update you on the curriculum committee's work with our gradebook policy. Talk about reassessment and instructional time. I also want to go over, because a lot of you guys are planners, I want to go over what our final exam schedule is going to be. And we're going to keep it real simple. It's going to be very similar to what we had last year. So, going over our good news first. A lot of things. And I know I mentioned a lot of good news during the morning announcements. We had a lot of good news shared with at our SPDM meeting. We talked about, in the SPDM meeting, we talked about our mock ACT scores and how our accountability number last year was a 45.6%. And based on our mock ACT scores, I mean, it's just a mock, and we understand that the scores are not official, but we're projecting how our students are going to do based on this year's kids, based on the great work we're doing in advisory. Our mock ACT score would be a 57.8% at this time, and that would put us just short of the state average. That's a 59.3%. Basically saying how the percentage of students that are meeting that proficiency and that distinguished level. So we got to keep pushing, we got to keep working. We've got a few more months before they take the ACT for real in March, I believe. Also, it's not certain, but there's a likelihood, there's a chance that our sophomores will have the opportunity to also take an official ACT score, working with the state, working with the district, figuring out the funding that's gonna take place for that. Basketball, real excited about basketball season. Last year we did a lot of great things, boys and girls basketball. Really, the amount of people that came to our basketball games. We had our Lexington Citizens Academy where the fire trucks were here, the Jaws of Life, and we got a lot of positive attention. There's a video that we put on the website to share with some of our community partners at the council meeting. Some of the nice things that were shared with us. Our Healthcare Academy showcase that our Healthcare Academy did was fantastic. I already mentioned the ACT growth, lacrosse, swim team, chorus. drama, a lot of great things. Went into visiting classrooms last week. I was in the art wing and just really impressed with some of the things that they were doing. I told one of the teachers, art would have been my favorite class. I was terrible. I was not a great artist, but they're doing so much hands-on that it's awesome. Our ambassador group is fantastic. Big shout out to girls soccer and football. Both coaches won the Coach of the Year for their region, cross-country qualifying in state. Just a lot of great things going on here at Douglas. I do want to transition now and go to our Lifesaver Award. So here's the thing with our Lifesaver Award. How do you do a Lifesaver Award when you're not in front of the entire faculty and you don't have the opportunity to present? So what we're doing with our Lifesaver Award is we're going to embed a video clip here.
Hi, Mr. Diaz asked me if I could go ahead and give the Lifesaver Award today so that we wouldn't have to have a meeting on Tuesday, which excited me a great deal. So, I want you all to know that I have the best academy and the best teachers ever. Most of them are very young, but the youngest of all came late. And we hired her in freshman academy, and she had big shoes to fill because she was following Omar Salash. She has come in here, she has great classroom management. The kids love her, and we love her. So I'm giving the Lifesaver Award this month to my friend, Miss Daly.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And there will be something in it later. I didn't know I was giving it today, but at least you can have this, and that's your college.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, now we're going to move on and talk about our school data in keeping with our agenda. The first chart you see is the in-school suspension. The in-school suspension is a little different than the trend that we had last year. You'll see the numbers here if you can pause or zoom in. Basically, the line is last year. The line is last year's data, and the bars are this year's data as we progress throughout the school year. The amount of office referrals, or I'm sorry, that was in-school suspension. This is out-of-school suspension. So basically, in the previous slide, we're using SAFE a lot more and suspension a little less based on this data. I guess that's a positive trend to indoor suspension versus out-of-school suspension. Our school-wide office discipline referral is, and what you have is we included now the national mean. So right now we're below the national mean. Last year we were below the national mean until about the midway point of the year. This is the out-of-school suspension with the national mean included in there. And this is the discipline data, office referrals, the percentage of out-of-school suspension. At a previous faculty meeting, you guys asked for the per academy and the percentages per academy. So we were able to filter that out for you guys. You can have an idea of what % of the events are coming out of which one of the academies for the discipline behavior. I know that in your SLCs you are discussing in detail individual students and how to address their needs, the needs of these individual students. So these conversations are taking place in your meetings quite often. As we move towards the semester break, I do want to keep in mind that we are in full bore on our evaluations, and you'll see administrators in academies and administrators in different classrooms for the purpose of evaluations, formative and summative, and just spending a lot of time giving feedback and meeting with teachers. Your PGP should have been approved by your administrator by now. If your PGP has not been approved, then there may be an issue where it wasn't assigned appropriately. Get help, ask help. Ask your academy principal. A lot of the newer teachers, I am evaluating, and I did approve the PGPs. We sent emails out earlier in the year letting you know who your evaluating teacher was. We did update the new teacher induction program Canvas site, so it's pretty robust at this time, the Canvas site for the new teacher induction program. I do want to mention that as far as your SBDM subcommittees, the way that we're set up, we're not asking folks to be part of multiple committees. We're asking folks to represent their academy and represent their peers in the subcommittee that they're in. So you, if you are in the professional, if you are in the PD, or if you are in the budget SBDM subcommittee, you are the voice for your peers. You come and you present on their behalf and you share on their behalf. And the conversations that should be taking place is, this is what the teachers want, this is what this group asked, and you share that information in your SBDM subcommittee meetings. On the flip side, when you do go to your SLCs, when you do go to meetings with your academy or your department, that's when now you share back what transpired and what took place in the SBDM subcommittees. On that note, I would like to really touch base on some of the things that the curriculum committee has been working on, just to be as transparent as I can. So, late work reassessment, the language in red is new language that the curriculum committee has placed into the policy as part of our policy review. So SBDM charged the curriculum committee to look at this policy. The curriculum committee tried to get feedback through surveys and communications to look at some of it. The teachers will not accept late work without approval. The work being after 2 weeks from the original due date. So basically what we're saying is, you give a kid an assignment on a Monday, the assignment is due on Wednesday, 8A, 8A. The assignment is due on that Wednesday. If the kid doesn't turn in the assignment on that Wednesday, 1 week passes, 2 week passes, they need to talk to you about what's going on before they're eligible to receive work or credit for that late assignment. They thought that language was important. We went and presented that to the SBDM on Wednesday in our 2.5-hour meeting, marathon. Also, reassessment language that was introduced. If you see here in red, and guys, pause the video if you really want to dig deep and read exactly what they're saying, okay? So you can pause the video and really look at some of the language that's in here. Content areas have the ability to set their individual reassessment windows, which shall be no shorter than 2 weeks after the initial assessment, so more than 2 weeks. Teachers also have the ability to set individual reassessment criteria, but individual criteria must include at least part of the following. So you ask your kid, you want to reassess, well, they got to do something in order to reassess. So to prove that they've studied or done mastery. Before after school tutoring, ESS, referral or attendance, documentation that they worked with you. Failing to meet those expectations will result in the student not being eligible or being ineligible for the reassessment, right? So it's not like we're giving the kid a test, they didn't do so well, so we're just going to give them another test, give them another test, give them another test. We want the kid to learn or be retaught some of the content. And on that note, what we need to really be clear about is, how do we know what reassessment is? What is considered reassessment? Again, pause the video and really take a look at some of the things that we've identified. So reassessment is done after the student has had the opportunity to learn the material in a different way. Reassessment is assessing the student in the learning standard. So if they've mastered a standard, we don't need to reassess that standard. We reassess the standard that they have not mastered. Giving a student an opportunity to demonstrate mastery in a way that is different from the initial assessment. Another way for students to prove that they know what they know, or they've mastered that standard. Reassessment is not test corrections. That's more of a reteaching activity. Reassessment is not giving the original test back and having them do it a second time, right? They're going to game the system. If they know that you're going to give them that same test over, then they're not going to study. They're going to see what's on the test and kind of wiggle their way through the content without really mastering any of the standards. Reassessment is not done without a student working to obtain the knowledge they didn't have the first time. Reassessment is not over all standards, but the standards that the students haven't mastered. So what we really want to do is work with the student, work with the family, and kind of bring everything together so that we are not solely taking the responsibility of reassessing the student. We have an infrastructure with ESS, we have morning tutoring, we have things that can support you. In my mind, I don't want to reassess a kid while I'm introducing new instruction in my class, because now that kid, while they're reassessing, is going to miss some of the new content potentially that I am introducing in the next class. So I struggle with reassessments that take place in class. We do have advisory, and on Fridays the advisory is a lot less structured. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, this slide will appear in our, I'm going to share it on Google, on the team drive. This slide will also appear on the newsletter for the next couple of weeks until finals week. But this is going to be our finals schedule. And what this does, it allows the lunches to remain the same. So when you go to lunch, when the teacher goes to lunch, that's when the students go to lunch. We did flip several of the classes, and what you have here is you have a natural system for makeups. So if you have a kid in your B1 final that missed your B1 final, then you have B1 here in which they can make up the final they missed. This is like backwards. I feel like a weather person. B1, B1. All right, so I'll stand here for a second and let you guys get a visual on that. Very similar to last year's schedule, except the dates were changed to accurately reflect this year's schedules. I think the last message I have for you for the purpose of this faculty meeting is I hope you kept up with how many times I said the word automonopia so that you can accurately take attendance. And I want to make sure, guys, that we fight tooth and nail to protect instructional time. I understand the need to support the arts and go on field trips. I understand the need to acknowledge students that are receiving a scholarship, national letter of intent, whatever the case may be. I understand the need to do college visits, and I understand the need to do off-campus, career-type oriented learning opportunities that make our school unique. Those things happen at academy schools. But at the end of the day, we are here to teach our kids. We have 84 minutes in that class period. Some weeks you have 3 windows to teach those 84 minutes. Some weeks you have 2 windows to teach those 84 minutes. We've got to start when the bell rings. We've got to keep going till the bell rings at the end of the period. And we have to really, really, really sometimes just say no. If a student is not passing the class, they don't get to go on some of these field trips, on some of these activities. They have to be in good academic standing. And that's one thing, you know, a lot of our teachers are good about. A lot of our teachers understand you don't get to go on this field trip. We're removing your name from that list because you haven't met our EOS expectations, you haven't met our behavioral expectations, and you haven't met our grade expectations. So I just want to put that bug out there that we have to do our best, fight tooth and nail to defend and protect instructional time. I hope you enjoyed this flipped format of our faculty meeting, and I hope that this gives you more flexibility. It is my expectation that you finalize this video and answer the questions that we'll have for you by 5 o'clock on Monday. Thank you.